Hello everyone, if you're a Dota 2 fan, then the next 2 weeks should be very exciting for you as it is that time of the year again. That's right, the International 2016 is here, and for the next few days, I'll be doing daily recaps for the group stage. So if you're busy because of work or other reasons, be sure to check back here every day and see what's happening in the biggest tournament of Dota 2 history. And we begin today with wildcard matches, where at the end of the day, 2 of these 4 teams will be able to participate in the main event, while the other 2 goes home. So let's get started, shall we? Since I want to keep this video reasonably short, I'll be skimming through some of the games later on because those ones are pretty straightforward. And as for the first series, we'll have 2 Western fan favorites matchup between Escape Gaming and Complexity Gaming. Both of these 2 teams were 1 games away from making it straight into the main event during their respective qualifier, as they both made a tiebreaker in their regional qualifier, but they were not able to win the tiebreaker, and they ended up having to go to the playoff where they both lost in the grand finals, which is how they ended up as a wildcard here. In the first game, it was by no means a fast-paced game, as you can tell by the kill score. Both of these teams had slippery heroes as their carries, such as the Morphling and the Slark, so it was difficult to gank them past the early game. However, Complexity was able to slowly edge out a lead because they had better pickoff potential with Beastmaster and Ricky in the lineup. And this fight pretty much secured Complexity victory in game 1, as they almost team-wiped Escape and only lost Beastmaster. In the second game, it was Escape who had the lead this time. At 17 minutes in, even though the kills are the same, Escape had much better farm on their core heroes, and Complexity's only way back to the game was their ancient stack. And of course Escape knew this, since that's what Seven tend to do in the mid game to get ahead. So they contested heavily to prevent Complexity from killing their ancients. And this was also the perfect time for Escape to fight, since Lone Druid just picked up his Radiance, and Complexity could not handle a full-on team fight here since most of the heroes are very poor. And with a full team wipe here, the game was easy for Escape as they cruised to game 2 victory and tied up the series 1-1. For the final deciding game, this game turned out rather interesting. 30 minutes in, Escape was ahead in farm. However, while the Slark was dead, Koifa and Kizu went in for a very questionable gank on the enemy Weaver, and they ended up losing both of their lives for it. And with both of them not having buybacks available, it actually allowed Complexity to get the first barracks advantage. But despite losing a set of barracks first, Escape was still in control of the game, because as you see here on the net worth graph, the Mirana who is third in farm is actually support Mirana, but he has more farm than most of the heroes in the game, which means he basically has all the core items that a normal Mirana mid would have at this point. So the damage from this support Mirana was a headache for Complexity for the whole game. And here you see that they barely lost anything while team wiping Complexity near Roshan Pit. And from that, they were able to take 2 melee and 1 range barracks while the dire set was respawning. At this point, it was an uphill battle for Complexity, if it wasn't already before. And unfortunately for them, Escape did not give them any chances, as they eventually took the game 3 and advanced to the winner bracket final, while Complexity dropped down to the lower bracket, and they're 1 best of 3 away from being sent home. Meanwhile, the other series was also played at the same time, where we have Execration faced up against Ehome, who is deemed the favorite to win the wildcard by most people. Ehome had a great start to game 1, and at 20 minutes, they already had a 10k lead and they were already threatening Execration's high ground. This is probably what most people expected from the series, a one-side stomp from a team who made a deep run at TI5. However, the result of this early high ground push did not go according to Ehome's plan at all. They attempted to siege Execration's high ground as they felt confident enough with their advantage. However, Savannah is not a very good sieging hero as he requires ultimate to do most of his burst damage. But even after his ultimate expired, Ehome still decided to stay, which allowed Execration to slowly chip down their health while kiting the Savannah around. And eventually the health on Ehome's hero dropped too low for them to fight, so they attempted to retreat. However, Execration knew this was their chance back into the game, as they all jumped in and cleaned up most of Ehome's heroes. And from that one single fight, what seemed like was going to be a one-sided stomp became a very even game. And as the game went on, it actually became a very difficult game for Ehome, since they pretty much relied on Savannah to do most of their physical damage, but Execration has some very good kiting heroes, such as the Weaver and Mirana, and even the Slardar to some extent, as he can just blink in, crush, and then run away. Not to mention, they also had Avenged for saving people as well. So once the game reached a point where Savannah could not burst on anyone, it became very difficult for Ehome to kill anyone. And just like that, in a surprising fashion, Execration was able to take the first game in the series, despite the rough start to the game. In the second game, the early game was much more even compared to the first one, as both teams were trading kills with each other early on, and things were actually looking quite scary for Ehome at some point, as this is pretty much a must win for them. However, in clutch moments like these, Ehome.Old always seems to show up for Ehome. His next assassin play was able to keep finding important kills onto Execution's core, which put fear into their mind as they became very scared to split push. This forced Execution to group up and push with the gem. However, with a well-executed teamfight, Ehome was able to team wipe Execution and also taking the gem from them as well. This allowed Ehome to have complete map control, which eventually allowed them to outfarm the enemy and take in number 2, tying the series 1-1. For the third game, Ehome boldly picked the Naga Siren for ISS during their first phase, which gave Execution plenty of a chance to counter it, and in the end, they decided to go with the Alchemist and the Morphling to outgreed the Naga. However, Old Chicken showed up this game on his Mirana, as he was able to keep the Alchemist in check early on. In the mid-game, he was able to roll him around and got important kills around the map, which created a great amount of space for the Naga, which meant that all Execution could do was turtle and hope for Ehome to make mistakes, and go late game against them. And there were a few moments that Execution looked like they were coming back to the game. However, Ehome was able to quickly stabilize and eventually took a long drawn-out game that Naga always seems to have. As they took the series 2-1, Ehome will move on to the winner bracket final, and Execution will drop down to the lower bracket and they will face Complexity. So in the winner bracket final, we have Escape going up against Ehome, which is a matchup most people probably expected that was going to happen here. And despite Ehome being the favorite coming into wildcard matches, their series against Execution looked kind of sloppy. Maybe it's because it's early in the morning or first game of the day kind of thing, who knows. But it definitely seemed like Escape has a chance to beat them. And just like in the previous game, Ehome decided to once again open the draft with Naga in the first phase. However, unlike Execution's approach, Escape was hoping to use Drought Ranger's early push to beat the Naga before she comes online. And the game was pretty much over early, however, not the way you thought it would be. By now you're probably wondering why I'm only shooting top lane. It's only Axe vs Void. Boring. Well, that's because this is probably the most disgusting outplay I've seen compared to Dota in a while. If you haven't noticed yet about what the Axe is doing, he's basically pulling a camp while stacking them to keep the dire creeps away from the Void, while tanking the enemy creep, which effectively zones out the Void from getting any of the farm, and sometimes even preventing him from getting any experience. And by 7 minutes, Axe was 2 levels ahead of Void while getting almost all the creeps, plus the stacks, while the Void barely got any CS. It's kind of funny because Void usually does okay against 2 or 3 heroes in a lane. However, Ehome.Old just showed how to completely destroy an offlane Void as an Axe. And once he got his Vanguard, he could play very aggressive past the tower because he knew that the enemy had to commit their entire team to kill him. The laning decision from Ehome was actually so smart. They tried against the Drought Ranger to shut her down early, which prevents her from pushing early, and the Axe just out-farm and out-level the Void by pulling. And with the mid lane breaking even between Death Prophet and Evoker, Ehome basically won 2 out of 3 lanes just like that. And this basically meant that Escape could not get much out of the early game, and therefore the planned early push has been foiled. I mean, the game did last 44 minutes, however, after the laning stage, it was already an uphill battle for the Radiant side, as Ehome eventually took game number 1. In the second game, Ehome won the 4 Protect 1 strat with Anti-Mage as their sole physical damage carry. Escape did well to stay in the game, however, they were not able to shut down the Anti-Mage at all. But they definitely had the chances in this game as all they needed was a few kills on the Anti-Mage to slow him down. However, these 2 fights in the Radiant jungle pretty much decided the game. Even though Escape's carries by no means are poor, but they just weren't farming enough to take down the Anti-Mage. And with so many good mana void target for the AM, it was just a very difficult game for Escape once he was farmed. And it only took them 41 minutes in game 2 to close out the series, as Ehome was able to cruise through Escape with a 2-0 victory. And despite a slow start in the games against Execution, Ehome's draft and execution looks much better against Escape. So I think it's fair to expect them to have a decent showing in the group stage, as they'll be the first wildcard team to secure their spot at the International 2016. As for Escape, they will get another chance as they await the winner of the following series. In the lower bracket match, we have Execution going up against Complexity. I'm going to skip the first game since it was actually a complete clown fiesta, as both teams pretty much ran at each other from the very beginning. I mean, the whole game was 23 minutes and there were 50 kills in that span of time. So if you like those kind of games, I recommend checking it out. And Execution did end up taking game 1, which many will probably consider an upset. And in game 2, it appears that Complexity decided not to ban the meeple, which they did back in the first game, so it seemed like they must have a plan against it. However, despite that, Excretion still picked it up without hesitation in the first phase, and the bet showed why his meepo is deserving of first 6 ban, as he was able to completely destroy the dire side. And just like that, with a surprising quick 2-0 defeat, Complexity will be the first wildcard team to go home. A sad day for the NA Dota, as they looked so promising during the previous major. Now we move on to the last series of day 1, where these two teams will fight the final spot to play in the main event. And with Excretion just coming off of 2 very satisfying wins, they must be filled with confidence as they came out very strong in game 1. However, that confidence may not be a good thing when it makes you fight 45 against the enemy team, with one of your most farm heroes just recently got picked off. At 15 minutes, Excretion had an early lead, however, the pickup at the Giant jungle, leading to a fight near the Roshan pit, swung the game towards Escape's side. Even though Excretion did end up killing the Tiny, it was nowhere near worth it for the entire team, as they basically threw their entire early game advantage away. And minutes later, Excretion once again decided to challenge Escape in the jungle. However, this time it turned out even worse for them, as they could not kill a single person. From this point on, the game was fully in Escape's hands, as they had complete control to this very crucial game. They played it very patiently, as they eventually took game 1 at 47 minutes. In game 2, Escape put out a good old Dazzle Huskar combo. If you look at the score, net worth, and the fact that they were pushing high ground in 14 minutes, this basically summarizes the entire game. Excretion had no answer for this Huskar at all, as all they could do was watch him tear down their base and had no choice but to call GG at 18 minutes. And unfortunately for them, they will be the second wildcard team to be knocked out, as they have to say goodbye to their dream of playing at the TI. And with that, the final 2 teams at TI6 is set. Congratulations to Ehome and Escape Gaming. However, they won't have much time to celebrate, as the group stage will begin tomorrow. And this concludes my day 1 recap of the International 2016. I hope you find this video useful, and if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and follow me on Twitter. And as usual, thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next time.